Welcome back to Is It Wrong to Jump Up Girls in a Dungeon? Anime Review, episode number 29. This will be discussing the 44th episode series, Cassandra Ilion, Dreamseeker. This episode covers chapters 1 and 2 of book 13. And they pretty much do, in fact, cover pretty much the whole chapter. Though there is one scene in the book they actually heavily trimmed down because the scene went on for several pages. And they basically reduced it down. So you open up right where pretty much the start of like the first chapter of the book. We have everybody looking at the dead body and all expecting Gale win. Now there's a lot more going on here, a lot more conversation here. And the anime just trimmed it down. It's like, got shaved off because basically there's a lot going on here. There's a lot of voices in this scene. It, like, rereading the section again, because I read this book, like, I think it was like a year ago I read this book. Though I should point out, though, 13 is the shortest book of the whole series. Yeah, here's book 13 for you, and the book itself is only just, like, if you don't count the other stuff here, this book is roughly 213 pages. Yeah. In case you're curious, this here is the thick of the story of the book. Yes. Now, I'm not going to show a dead body because, well, it's kind of gross to show that. I'll show the other picture because that's more appropriate to show that than a dead freaking corpse. So, They all think it's Gale win based on the wounds. And, of course, Belle tries to step in to prove that it kind of isn't. And, well, Aisha pulls him away. And everybody goes meet up in this sort of, like, house. It's not really clear exactly where they're inside. I can tell they're inside of a building. So they all discuss what to do. They all basically agree they need to go down to the labyrinth where she is, go down several floors to find her. And they all agree to join the hunting party and they'll meet up with her. And then we have the very next morning when we see Cassandra in bed. And I am going to show this, where the anime kept this in, which is shocking, the fact they kept this in. And you see her sweating, and look at this. Her shirt is open. Yes, her shirt is open. Now, you're probably thinking that when I showed you that, like, you probably would have thought maybe JC would have had her close up her shirt. Nope. That's how they kept her in the anime. Now, JC's staff is not known for doing stuff like this from some series I've seen by them. They're not known for showing a lot of fan service. So, you could definitely say that the series itself was showing a lot of fan service. Oh, yes, definitely. I do believe so. And you're probably thinking, is there any other series I have watched from JC's staff that basically shown some fan service? You know, some female skin. Aside from this one? Well, excuse me. Aside from this one, you ever think, did Sword of Roya do that? Not really per se. Not that I can think of, no. Did One Punch Man? Nope. Did we see that for Haruya Super Kingdom? Yes, kind of for one of the characters. They see him in a swimsuit. I'm looking forward to that. So, not really. The company known for doing stuff like this is Passionate. So, they have it where Cassandra is basically... By the way, she's sleeping in her uniform with her shirt opened. Probably because it's very hot down there. And no, I'm not going to sing a song. It's getting hot in here. So, they'll meet up, and of course, Cassandra initially doesn't want to go, and then she decided to go anyways down to the lab because she has the foresight, basically, of all members of the party getting killed, except for Belle. She does not confirm Belle dies in this thing. So, she uses it a way to basically help Belle make sure he doesn't die in this mission. And she's not basically overbearing with this stuff. And, of course, Daphne basically is a little, like, getting a little not very happy to bring up the whole dream. She thinks the dream is basically her having foresight. We do briefly cut away to the outside world, where we see Hestia in her mansion with Mika and one of his subordinates, where he's like, "Oh, I'm very comfortable with this." Matter of fact, Daphne and Cassandra out there. Of course, they do bring up Cassandra having foresight, because, well, that might be interesting for her to have. It's a good conversation, and now the one thing they do cut from the scene is Hestia put her chest up against the table. Yeah, they cut this bit out. They mention, oh, her small, ample breast. That's the writer for you. That's a line he wrote in the book. Hestia shoves her small, ample breast up against the table. The anime does not show this scene. Now, the writer of this series is Fujino Omari. And I just repeated a line that he wrote. So, don't blame me for saying that. It's a good scene, of course, they have is where Hestia sees basically a letter from Lily about what's going on. So she's basically informed about what's going on. Cut back to the dungeon. They're going down 21st floor. And of course, they briefly stop for some break. And of course, basically, they inform about giant woolly mammoths. Yes, they've heard of it as something else, but they look like freaking woolly mammoths. Of course, and we have Cassandra talking to Wolf, and they do keep it in from the book where he says, "Mr. Wolf, Mr. Friendzone." He says, "Don't come out my family name. Just call me Wolf." All right, Mr. Wolf. And of course, they briefly chat off screen, mind you. You're probably thinking, did the JC staff cut out some conversation in this one? Actually, no. This conversation was held off screen. Basically, the way they presented the anime is pretty accurate to how presented in the book, so I'm not going to blame JC staff for that. So, he agrees to help with them with whatever she wants them to do. And then she talks to Lily, and it's revealed a little later he wanted to make a Goliath scarf for Belle, which I'll get to in a minute. So then we have it's where they all get to the next floor as Belle and the woolly mammoths, and everybody agrees to stay behind. Well, Aisha was going to go with them, but they want Aisha to stay. There's a joke about how heavy Hestia is. Hestia is Himori. And of course, they do point out how big her chest is got to say we're the Far East, which I found to be so late. And Chica's like, really? We're talking about this now? And of course, Wolf agrees with that. Yeah, of course, Wolf would agree with him because basically, it's a Japanese thing. Love talking about the size of women's chest. It's a Japanese anime. What do you expect? By the way, in case you're curious, the whole thing with the breast size, that has come up occasionally in the series, but it's not like a recurring gag where women constantly poke fun at each other for their chest size. I'm gonna look at Loki. Loki barely has a chest anyways. Even though she's taller than Hestia, she's basically flat-chested. Yeah, speaking of Loki, she does not really appear in the season at all. Well, for good reason, because she's actually not in the books. Yeah, basically, if you're curious what the heck Loki is up to in the events of books 12 to 14, read the Sword of Roya series, the spin-off book. That kind of explains what she was up to during the events of this book here. Yes, though we won't see a season 2 of the Sword of Roya light novel series because it only lasted one season, and according to Anime News, apparently no one watched it. Possibly, yes. So, moving on. So get down to that floor, and of course, well, it turns out that the Goliath scarf is made from part of Lily's Goliath robe. It makes the thing that protect him against Lou, and of course they go down, and of course Cassandra mentions to him that come back one piece and stuff like talked about. Yeah, it's hinted here that she's in love with Belle. Yes, another character in love with Belle. I'm sure that, yeah, there's even Hestia. By the way, Hestia on the surface gets jealous over this little factoid that Cassandra might be in love with Belle. Because Belle is a chick magnet. Of course he is. He's got goddesses basically fawning over him. Yep. Excuse me. But really good episode. Love it. Do I think they cut too much stuff out here? Not really, no. They went on a pretty good pace here. I'd say the only thing majorly they cut here, aside from the whole thing of Hestia putting her breast up against the table, was the trimming down the conversation at the beginning. Aside from that, it moves on a pretty good pace here. Oh, almost forgot to mention. Astronomer. She not the one Power Rangers, the one appears in the show. She briefly appears in the episode. Yes, where she appears in Chronotos. Yes, the ultimate dungeon that popped up in the previous season of the show that makes a return here. Like there's the cages where the Xanatos briefly kept the big staircase. Yes, if you watch previous season, like wow, we visited something from previous season. Awesome, and it's revealed that she apparently brought Lou down there, but she saw somebody, this guy with a scar on his face, and she's going to chase this. I think this guy is supposedly the guy who now is pointed out by Daphne when Daphne and Lily do examinations of the body, that Lou did in fact wound him, basically cutting off his wrist and ankles. But the fatal wounds were strange because basically they're all over the place. So yeah, they kind of proved here that she is responsible for hurting him, but not for killing him. And of course they try and blame her for this particular crime. Who did it? I'm not going to say it. We'll find out when we get to it. Yep. So yeah, that's it particular view. Next up is One Piece, then Boruto, and then it's back to Plunderer. Okay? Next video. Bye.